This is the Work at Home Heroes podcast. Your host, Caitlin Pyle, digs deep with people from all over the world who make money from home. Get ready to wake up to a world of possibility for freedom, flexibility, and a life you'll love.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Work at Home Heroes podcast. I am your host, Caitlin Pyle, and I'm here today with my Flam. Now, her mission statement for her business is to be the heal your work life coach. She helps women who are drained by a work life filled with a job, a side hustle, and a passion project, and family obligations. She helps them create fulfilling and energizing work lives through self-love and self-acceptance, even if that means loving your inner weirdo. Welcome to the show, Mai.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in New York City.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. What's the weather like up there?
I have not been outside yet, but it's still pretty cold.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit cool today down in Orlando, Florida, because we had some rains the last few days, and that always kind of signifies a cold front is coming through when it rains for a few days. But sooner or later, it's going to mean a hurricane of some kind. So knock on wood.
Yeah. Here it's like spring hasn't come yet, so I'm still waiting.
It's just around the corner. I can feel it.
Yeah.
So tell us more about what it means to be the heal your work life coach.
Yeah. So basically, I've just talked to a lot of women who either have like a day job and a side hustle that they're trying to juggle, or a few jobs and family obligations, small children, and they love their work, but they end up feeling just really exhausted and drained at the end of the day and like they're getting nothing done. So I basically coach them to find and keep a work situation for the long haul that they're madly in love with, that lets them actually be fully themselves, even if they're weird, have lots of energy, earn money, and make a difference. So I find that in those situations where people are trying to juggle a few hustles or really like make time for family, you do need that time to talk to someone and make some tough decisions to make your work life work for you. That's what I do, and I love it.
Awesome. Well, I really like that you help people embrace their inner weirdo, because I think there was a time where, at least for me growing up, being weird wasn't cool. And I was always labeled like the teacher brown noser or the goody two shoes or whatever. And it wasn't cool. And I was almost ashamed of it through high school. And part of college, I think college, I kind of started to not care as much because you just realized that it didn't matter to other people and they're all partying, whatever, I was doing my homework, whatever.
Yeah.
But now they're like, hey, are you hiring? They're asking me to work for me. And so I'm like, oh, hey, it actually paid off to be a weirdo.
You know, you're a great example because you're a very successful CEO. And what I tell people, you know, a lot of times instead of conforming and trying to like just do what your boss says or act like a certain way you're supposed to act at work, which leaves you really resentful, a lot of the people that end up being much more successful are the ones that embrace their idiosyncrasies and what they actually like, even if it's not how you're supposed to act at work. So I found that that's really the key that's been helping my clients for sure.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, so to speak, gold mine could be sitting right underneath your nose, the thing that everybody kind of thinks, oh, you have to do this to be successful, or they see other people around them and they're like, oh, well, you know, how can I be successful at this? Like, it's so boring. I thought that when I started Proofread Anywhere, my first blog, I thought, oh, nobody's going to want to learn this. This is so boring. I was ashamed to be a proofreader, ashamed to tell people what I did all day. But then it turned out people were interested in it. I never would have known had I just not put it out there and all this nerdy goodness. And now I'm like really proud to say, hey, I started with proofreading and then I branched out and then I branched out and then I branched out. You just kind of pivot. And speaking of pivot, I want to shift gears just a little bit because I know that you have a lot of people balance their side hustles and stuff. So let's talk about your side hustles. You do the life coaching thing, but you also do a couple of other things.
Yeah. So I left my day job a year ago to start coaching full time. And I thought I would just be able to build up the business really quickly. But I really didn't know what I was talking about. I also really didn't have time to plan it because I left my day job not the way I wanted to. It was because it was like a unhealthy work environment. So I was like, you know, I wanted to start my business in a couple of years, but I'm just leaving now, right? But I ended up, you know, sometimes businesses take, well, not sometimes, I think generally, they take some time to build. So I did end up taking a side hustle as a grant writer with one of my previous employers. I just do it freelance from home. So now I do coaching and some grant writing on the side.
Very cool. So not only are you helping other people, you're actually helping yourself as well. You're walking the talk, you're doing what you're helping your clients do. And that's a mark of a real live, hey, I know how to do this and I can help you type situation. I love it. So You left your job and you said you wanted to make a certain amount of money. It didn't quite happen. Shifting gears to when you're still working your full-time job, was there a moment where you're like, okay, I'm done with this? Or was it more of like a gradual thing?
There was definitely a moment. I mean, my original plan, like I said, I was running a nonprofit. So it wasn't really the kind of job where you can build a side business. It was a very intense job. But my original thought was, oh, I'll just go part-time at this job. I'll convince the board to put me part-time and then I'll build my business over a couple of years. But I ended up having a bullying coworker and it was just like a bad situation. So I was like, you know what, I'm leaving because especially, with what I do with coaching, I can't stay at a job with a bullying coworker and then coach my clients to, make these leaps and leave unhealthy situations. So I ended up actually leaving without the planned out business plan that I wanted, without the kind of savings that I wanted. And I was like, I'm going to make this work because this isn't working for me. So that was definitely what did it.
Right. You gave yourself no other option. You're like, I'm going to make this work. And I think a lot of times we can't get to that point. There are so many people that are like, I want to leave my job, and they look at all the reasons why it can't work. And you were looking for all the reasons that it could, and you made it happen as a result of that. That's really cool. I totally dig that. I love you have this positive attitude towards it's just going to happen and you just don't give yourself any other option. Offline, we talked about, we always have our guests fill out an application for it. And so I know a little bit about you before you even come on the show. Yeah. It makes everybody's lives a little bit easier. I just want to know, what did your life look like before you started working at home? You ran the small nonprofit. What kind of nonprofit was it?
So it was a nonprofit in the social justice sector. So it was actually doing work with progressive organizations in Israel. I'm Israeli originally, so I did some work at Jewish nonprofits that were interfacing with Israel because I knew Hebrew and knew Israel and stuff. Running a small nonprofit by yourself is really intense. I was in charge of fundraising and operations. So I was actually fundraising for my own salary, but interfacing with a board as well. Yeah, and I had one coworker who was doing the programming. So it really did prepare me for life as an entrepreneur because I had to get used to fundraising constantly, but the mission wasn't one that I created. And so it was less exciting. It was a cool job in that I used a lot of the skills I like and that I still use as an entrepreneur. But the part I didn't like was just really being led by other people's mission that, if I had it my way, I would do it probably a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a mission now doing what you're doing that it's not any better or worse than the mission that you're working with the nonprofit, but it's you and you can totally own that. And that means that you feel a lot more passionate about it. And even though you're still under a lot of stress and maybe you are still tired when you're done working and stuff, it just feels different. I can totally relate to that. I mean, you could love what you do, but until it's yours, you just don't know that kind of love, right? And a lot of people will tell me like, oh, how do you stay on track every day? How do you keep going when going gets tough? And I'm like, well, it's up to me if it's to be. And so if I don't work, I don't make money. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't make any money, period. I've got some passive income streams and investment accounts and whatnot that if I'm not invested in it, then it'll die. If I don't continue putting work into it, putting my life and passion into it, then it will just kind of suffocate. And that's just not what we want. And so you're kind of tired coming home every night. What about your friends and family? What did they think about when you were making that transition from working your regular kind of safe job into, hey, I'm going to go do full-time coaching?
I think with that particular job, maybe if I had quit one of my previous jobs, they wouldn't have felt this way. But with this job, since I was already under so much pressure to fundraise and, it still kind of felt like I was fundraising my own salary among, meeting the organization's mission, but also my salary. I think they were just like, yeah, get out of there because they saw how much pressure I was under and I was complaining all the time. So I think for them, they were just like, yeah, please leave just so you'll stop complaining. As far as what they thought about coaching, I think they knew, generally my family, everyone has a lot of faith in me. So they knew whatever happens, I would make it work. And they knew that I'm good at helping people. I think sometimes my parents are like, what do you do? And I'm confused. So sometimes they don't fully get it, but they know I take care of myself. They're mostly happy about that.
And so how long have you, I don't even think I even cover this, but how long have you been working at home?
For a year. April 14th, it'll be a year since I left my day job. So yeah, that's like in 3 days.
Wow. So you guys listening at home, you guys are listening to my talk about her journey. Where could you be in a year from now? Could you be talking to me on my podcast? Just think about it. It'd be really cool. I'd love to have you guys on. And so, but you've got to take the step. We interview people who have been working at home from 6 months to 2 years for the most part. We've got a couple of people that are quote unquote veterans that we interview as well. But we stick to people who are in the very beginning stages of their journey because we want to hear how they did it. And we want to inspire you guys who haven't started yet to get started because we want to see, hey, if Mike can do it, if Jenna can do it, whoever else has been on the show that you guys have listened to so far have done it, you can do it too. And kind of what's your excuse? We want to pose that question, get you thinking about what's possible for your life. So that's really cool. Your kind of friends and family, they learned pretty quickly to stop giving you advice because they knew that you could make it happen, right?
Yeah. And what I found is as far as advice, I still get it sometimes from my husband or my friends, but from the people who aren't, like, I basically have a posse of coaches that I talk to who are in the industry and who get it. And we kind of talk to each other about what we're doing to market our business and to grow our business and share, triumphs and fails. But for people who are outside the industry, I just push it aside. I'm not really interested in advice from people who don't know what they're talking about, really.
Yeah.
So for those people, I just stay confident. I say what's working, what's exciting, and then I talk to my coaches, my coach friends about the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I think that can be tough sometimes because especially if there's people in your life that are older and they've been in the corporate world doing things and that's the only way they know. Sometimes they feel like it's their duty to pass on the wisdom that they have for you so you can be successful. And if consider, for those of you guys listening at home that have come across this is happening in your life where people are just giving you this unsolicited advice and they're trying to tell you to do things one way where you've learned from a coach or whatever to do it a different way, know that they're coming from wanting to help you. I mean, my in-laws I use them as an example all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in the corporate world. They worked at the same company for 40 years, both of them. And they have a lot of business wisdom, but not all of it was applicable to what we were trying to build using the internet. They had never built an internet business. And so while they were skeptical and scared, they just didn't understand. And so just understanding that we're coming from that perspective allowed me to kind of cool my jets a little bit when I got upset or, nervous or, offended by some of the things they said. They just didn't know. And gradually, as they saw the results, as we build our business and stuff, they kind of cooled their jets and stopped trying to tell me what to do because they realized they had no idea what was going on. And we did. So
exactly.
A lot of the same parallels there. I dig it. And in your past job, I think that there is a misconception that when we have a full-time job, we want to shift to taking our side hustle full-time or just add that side hustle. We think that we have to do something completely different from your job. And so I was wondering if there's past job experience or skills that you learned from your old job that you feel have helped you in building your side hustles to more of a full-time income.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of different ways I could answer that question. I think for the women I'm working with now who are really trying to move to different industries or kind of shift their work life so that it's less intense, I think the fact that I've worked internationally, so in my 20s, I worked in Israel, I've seen different work cultures and how you can build your work life, right? So in Israel, people take a lot more vacations and they have a lot more free time and people just speak just a lot more directly to their supervisors, just some examples. So I really have much more of an open mind about what your work life can look like. I've worked in different industries too. So I worked in online marketing and then I transferred to nonprofit. And I worked in a very large nonprofit and then I ran a tiny nonprofit. So I can really help people from a lot of industries and who are switching industries keep that open mind and not stay boxed in to one type of way of working or work has to be this way or work has to be hard. So that's been the most useful with my clients.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit more what you do for your clients.
Yeah. So basically what I find is that when people are in the situation that I described before, where they have either that side business they're trying to build with a day job, or usually the other, thing pulling them away is small children, where they're like, I don't want that corporate job anymore where I have to work a million hours because I want to be with my kid. That they have a lot of like what we work on is the way they view themselves and who they are at work. So for example, it might mean what does an ideal workday look like for you? What would you like it to be? And a lot of times they think that that's impossible because no, I have to get this corporate job and make $100,000, or no, I have to build up my business in a certain way before I leave my day job. So we really just like work on those misconceptions and kind of break down those barriers so they can make big leaps like quitting their job, getting a different job, adding a second job, adding a side hustle. Those are generally the type of transitions I see. It's really just helping people through that transition that they're maybe not comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable, is getting people to be honest with themselves about what they want, and then also being honest about the reasons they don't already have that. Because if they can break down why they don't already have what they want, then they can see those barriers for what they are and then choose to navigate around or pivot from those barriers. And I think I actually forgot to ask you, what kind of income are you generating each month while working at home?
Yeah, so right now it's about $1,000 a month from coaching and then another $1,500 a month from grant writing.
Sweet. That is life-changing money. And for those of you guys wondering, I'm about to ask you, what is grant writing?
Yeah, so grant writing can be a bunch of different things, but it's basically nonprofits, they make all of their income from grants that they receive from private donors. So like just random people who want to do their charitable giving, or from foundations and organizations. So I basically write those proposals to donors for this big Jewish nonprofit that I used to work for. I now do that freelance for them. And I also then report to donors about what we did with their money. So I'm actually working with this really huge nonprofit that does a bunch of different projects in different areas. But, I used to work for them. So it's really, really easy for me to write these proposals and reports. So it's kind of like this mindless, easy side hustle for sure.
Yeah, using the skills that you already have. And I think we mentioned this earlier. Sometimes you don't realize, like you could have left that job writing grants and not realize you could keep doing that. I was doing my proofreading, working in a court reporting office, and it took me a year after I quit to realize I could do that for some significant income. I just didn't realize that I had made up my mind that, hey, I can only proofread, 100 pages a day, which, was about 2 to 3 hours of work. And that was it. I thought that was like, I put a cap on it because I had made that decision. But then when I realized, hey, I could actually streamline my system so I could read a little bit faster and use better technology, then I could do more. And so shifting gears, I want to take a few steps back because we talked a little bit about this, your friends and family and kind of the advice they're giving you. I want to specifically mention your husband a few times. What did your husband think? Because a lot of our work at home heroes are like, oh my gosh, my spouse will hate this. I'm afraid to tell him or her. What did your husband think?
So I think he was nervous because I was probably more of the breadwinner before I quit my job. But we just had a really frank talk about it. And I did have savings. So I showed him basically what I'd be able to use. I actually showed him all my charts and graphs of how much money I spend every month and how long it would take for me to get through my savings. I also showed him my marketing plan and what I'm doing to market my business. So I basically showed him all the data so he can count on me. And he also knows my history. Like I really have supported myself since I was 18. I supported myself through college. I moved to Israel by myself with $500 and had a career there. I basically showed him the entire track record to show that he could count on me. And it ended up helping him too, because in the first few months of my business, when I wasn't making as much money, he was like, you know what, I'm going to go out for a raise and promotion. And he got another side job. So it helped both of our careers.
How about that? I dig that you gave him a presentation on all the data and research that you were doing. You just simply presented it to him and you helped it make sense in his head the way that it was making sense to you. I really, really like that. Shifting gears again. I love to shift gears. Yeah. One question leads me to another. So in terms of like your dynamic, your routine, let's start with just the morning routine. What does your morning routine look like now that you're in charge of what you do every day?
So I've never been a morning person. And even when I was working at corporate jobs, I only worked jobs where I could come in late, and have no one notice. So even now, my morning routine is not great. I will often just sit in bed for a long time and read. And then I shower and then I sit in my living room and read, right? Until I'm just spaced out for an hour or two. And then once I'm done with my space out, I do these meditations every day where I When I visualize a goal I want for the month, it's either like an income goal or just something I want related to my business. And then I just do another meditation that's just like, what am I doing today? What do I want to do today? And then I make my kind of daily to-do list that comes to me through my meditation. And then I just start working. That's generally my morning routine.
I like that. I'm not a morning person either. And for a while, I let that kind of make me feel bad about myself. Like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shut out the shoulds. I'm going to do what works for me. And I've talked to a lot of night owls. In fact, I just got done recording with a woman named Paula who lives in Australia. It was 1:00 in the morning for her. And she's like, I'm a night owl. I just work with it, And sometimes when we can't sleep at night, like that's the best time for me, especially just to get out of bed and do the things I'm thinking about. Because there's a reason they're still in my head. And I would feel so much better if I just at least got down and like wrote an outline for the blog post instead of thinking it in my head over and over and over again. Spend that time that I'm laying there in bed thinking about it, actually doing the work. And then I could probably go to sleep. And so I think we just kind of have to work with where we are at the moment instead of trying to fit ourselves into this box of, the ideal morning routine. Because there's so many people publishing books about the ideal morning routine and you have to do it this way and this works for me. And sometimes, I especially read books like that and I just feel defeated because I'm like, I'm not going to do that, And so you have to take the liberty to say, okay, pick this from this area, get this idea from this person and build your own thing that works for you because nobody knows you as well as you know yourself. And offline, you actually mentioned that you work in a co-working space. How does that help you keeping yourself on track every day?
Oh my God, it has helped so much. My husband and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and his job is he runs a comedy club. So he's here during the day. He works at night and he just like watches TV and bothers me. So it just does not work. Like if I'm here, it's really hard to work. So I just walk over a couple of blocks to my co-working space and it's pretty perfect. They just have like really relaxing music and they have coffee and tea and I just don't have my distractions and my laundry sitting here that I'm actually looking at right now because now I am at home. Like, oh, I should fold that and I should do this. So it really helps keep me focused, just not having all those distractions around.
Yeah, and people can see what you're doing. I just think that's probably the biggest thing is that other people are like, oh my God, she's on Facebook. What is she doing? Why is she even paying to work here? Because you have to pay a small fee, right, to work in a co-working space. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too, for sure. I'm like, oh, they can see me. Be productive. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that works for a lot of people, like that kind of outside accountability. If you think that they care what you're doing, then it actually works in your benefit because you're like, oh, yeah, I don't want them to see me doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. I need to stay on track so they think I'm doing the thing. And then you do the thing and you're actually doing it and you get the benefit and they might not really even care, but in your mind they do. And you have that to work for you. And it's all really about making your situation work for you. So I really dig how you're doing that. And I think you had mentioned that your routine wasn't the best, but I think it's great. It works for you. You're obviously, profiting from it and you're growing. And so I think just keep doing what works for you and walking to the beat of your own drum.
Thank you.
What's your typical work-life balance? How many hours, we'll say, a day do you work on average?
So I feel like it ends up being like 5 hours a day, maybe 7, with all the breaks in between. And I definitely have a lot more work-life balance than I used to. I feel like I have lots of free time. I do feel like I end up thinking about my business a lot and thinking about, ooh, I want to write this blog post or, ooh, I should do this webinar. So, when it's your own business, you do end up just kind of thinking about it a lot because it's creative work. But I don't really feel like it's like, oh my God, I have so much work to get done. Oh no, I never work that many hours. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's important to have a good work-life balance. So what's next for you? Do you have anything in place to ensure that your business keeps going on the up and up? Or are you happy with where you are? What's next for you in your life and your business?
So I definitely want to grow the business. I really want to start a family soon with my husband. So as soon as I can grow the business, that will make me very happy and take more of a salary from it. So I would say the 3 biggest things I'm doing to grow the business. 1, just finding easier and smaller ways for people to connect with me, right? So I generally work with people one-on-one for 3 to 4 months. So that's like a big commitment. But right now I have a course coming out called Reclaim Your Power at Work. It's just like a 5-day course about just like creating one work-life change that will make your work life better in the next 30 days. And it's $17. Coming out with something like that helps people get to know me with less of a commitment. I also have a Facebook group I run called Queen Bees of the Workplace. and, in a thriving newsletter and Instagram. And it's another way I can inspire people and help them find a better work situation, even if they're not my one-on-one clients. And the third thing I would say, and this is also just, for other people listening who are running their own businesses, is doing a lot of collaborations with other coaches. So I've run some workshops with other coaches in New York, and I'll also hop on to someone else's Facebook group or add some content to someone else's course. And that also gets new people to get to know me. So those are some of the things I'm doing to grow the business right now.
I dig it, especially the part about collaboration, because I think a big mistake that people make is they look at other coaches, for example, or other people who are doing what they're doing, and they see them as competitors and not potential teammates, right? And you totally are not thinking that way. And I really like it because you can help each other grow your business. Not everybody speaks the same language as you do or as other coaches do. And you guys all have something unique to offer. Final question, I ask it of everybody. It's my favorite question because it's just, you get so much advice out of people when you ask this question. And that is this: what would you tell someone who's at home right now who wants to get started, wants to maybe transition out of their day job, wants to start their side hustle, but they're just afraid to take that first step? What advice would you give that person?
I would say the first thing is to find a mentor, start following some people that have maybe what you want or, are where you want to be in 6 months or a year or 5 years, and just kind of learn from them while also remembering that your business will be yours and is not going to be an exact replica of whatever they're doing. So those are the two things, because I think, with starting your own business, people just try to reinvent the wheel a lot when there are some really basic principles you need to learn. And the sooner you learn those and the sooner you learn those from qualified people, you'll just have a way easier time and not just run yourself ragged, for sure.
I dig it. The mentorship can come the strangest of packages. It could be a next door neighbor who had their own business for 10 years and they have some advice, and surrounding yourself with people that are doing, many of the coaches that you've probably worked with in the past have been somewhat mentors to you as well. And surrounding yourself with people who are on a similar journey. It's never going to be the exact same journey, but that's the reason we started this podcast, because we wanted to share stories of people who are just a few steps ahead of you and to inspire people to take the next step. Well, Maya, I know there's going to be some people with questions. We've tagged you in the Work at Home Heroes Facebook group. And so you guys listening right now, you can hop on over and ask Maya some questions. Where can people reach you if they want to reach out to you personally to ask you some questions or just become your friend?
So the best way is to join my Facebook group, Queen Bees of the Workplace. And you can always email me at my@myflam.com. And that is MAYFLAM.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show, Mai.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, guys. I sure hope you're enjoying the Work at Home Heroes podcast. I sure enjoy hosting it. I would love it if you'd leave us a review if you've been enjoying it. And of course, you are all invited to join the Work at Home Heroes Facebook community, where we will continue the conversation about working at home and finding your fit. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Work at Home Heroes podcast with Caitlin Pyle. Be sure to listen to previous episodes at caitlinpyle.co/podcast. While you're there, read the show notes and check out all the great links and resources mentioned in this episode and more. You can also subscribe to the Work at Home Heroes podcast so you'll automatically be notified when our next episode is available. Remember, as Caitlin says, mo skills means mo money.